Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Welcome back to the Good Ground Podcast, where we ground ourselves in the truth of God's word and navigate the lies of culture. We're just going to get into it. Today was RFK Jr.'s confirmation hearing, and it was a doozy. I mean, if you get triggered easily, I would just say I watched it for you to watch the key moments, so you didn't have to. But if you get triggered easily, I would just suggest you just watch some of the key moments I'm gonna go through right now, right? Because it was a doozy. I mean, he was getting grilled. When I mean grilled, I mean he was getting grilled. And quite frankly, I mean, I didn't expect anything less from his hearing. Nothing less. I mean, if there was a hearing that I would have expected the amount of discourse going back and forth, arguments, I mean, disruptions, it would be this one. Absolutely this one. I mean, I posted on my IG and I said, here's why his hearing matters. I mean, quite frankly, for those who care about medical freedom, for those who care about parental rights, for those who care about the government actually serving the people, not the other way around, this is a big deal. RFK Jr.'s hearing, his confirmation is a huge deal. And for a long time, we've had Big Pharma, corrupt politicians push their agendas at the expense of our health and the children's health in this country for our future. And he has been one of the few voices now. I know a lot of people go back and forth with him in terms of his position when it comes to, pro-choice and, he's not anti-vax entirely. So you will lose some people, specifically conservatives, who will go gung-ho and say, like, I like him, but I don't like him, or they'll just completely cut him off for the specific issue. But nonetheless, he's still one of the very few voices that are brave enough to challenge the forced vaccine narratives, the vaccine schedules, government overreach, corporate control. And quite frankly, I say that no parent should be forced to inject their child with something that they don't trust, that they don't understand fully. No American should be silenced for questioning the system. No government should have the power to mandate what goes into your body, into my body, into our body. So his confirmation is literally more than politics. It's about freedom. It's about health. It's about the future of your country. And his opening statement was very powerful. He said, quote, diabetes is 10 times more prevalent in this country. And I'm gonna pinpoint this exact scenario in his opening statement that was challenged by Michael Bennet, Senator Bennet. And he rigorously questioned. I mean, there are a couple other moments throughout his hearing, specifically with Pocahontas. I mean, Elizabeth Warren. But his opening statement was, in my opinion, I think it was brilliant. I thought his opening statement was brilliant. He talked about the health of this country. He talked about cancer rising. He talked about autoimmune diseases. He talked about asthma, depression, addiction, other conditions. He talked about the obesity rate in our country. He talked about children's health and their obesity rate in this country. He said we have the worst health in any developed nation in the world, and yet we spend more than other countries. He talked about the disparities that are just realities in this country. But Bennett really pressed him on this. I felt like Bennett had like a personal vendetta about what he said, and I thought it was just funny. But let me go through everything else that he had actually been through in terms of his hearing. I mean, from the moment he came in, it was just guns blazing. Let me see if I can remember where exactly he comes in. Okay, 50 minutes. All right. So from the beginning of the hearing, I mean, we see the senators come in, et cetera, et cetera. And like I said, I mean, the position of Secretary of Health and Human Services is a big deal. I mean, we look at the last person who was there. Shouldn't have been there. Mrs. Doubtfire should not have been there. She should not. He shouldn't have been there. Okay? Shouldn't have been there. Right? And so this session was marked with rigorous questions from both Democrats and Republican senators. And it focused on his controversial views on vaccine, public health policies, his qualification for the role. So there's some key highlights, right? So in the opening statement, I mean, it was just immense. I mean, you had Chairman Mike Crapo. I think I'm saying his name, Crapo. But he emphasized the importance of, the HHS role, and he acknowledged the controversy surrounding Kennedy's nomination. And then you had Wyden, who's a Democrat. He expressed concerns about Kennedy's past statements on vaccines and public health. And the other things he was like really, really pressed on was, like I said, vaccine safety, public health. Murray, who's a Democrat, questioned him on his long-standing, what he called anti-vaccine stance. Even though Kennedy isn't necessarily 100% anti-vax, he's not, but he was still questioned on it. And Kennedy questioned on its potential impact on public health initiatives. And Kennedy's response to that was he asserted that his views have been misrepresented, and, like I said, emphasized that his commitment to vaccine safety is different from being anti-vax, right? Stating that he supports vaccines that are rigorously tested and proven safe, right? Which I can say, okay, that's fair. Now, Senator Cassidy, Republican, started to inquire about Kennedy's position on childhood vaccine schedules, right? And so Kennedy's response was, he's advocated for individualized vaccination plans and greater parental involvement in those decision making, right? So, which is common sense to me, and I'm not a parent yet, but that's common sense. Parents should be involved in that vaccine schedule, in those vaccine plans. Now, the other thing that he was questioned on was, abortion and reproductive rights. And this is where Elizabeth Warren comes into play. This is where Pocahontas comes out of nowhere, right? Remember, she's a Democrat. She pressed him OD hard on his stance regarding, women's reproductive rights and access to abortion services. And of course, Kennedy's response was he stated that he respected the law as established by the Supreme Court and that he would uphold the existing regulations, though he personally holds to a pro-life stance, which I found very interesting, right? And of course, he was pressed again with, financial disclosures, potential conflicts of interest. And this is where Grassley comes in. He raised questions about Kennedy's financial ties to law firms involved in pharmaceutical litigations. Now, Kennedy's response to this was that he technically disclosed an arrangement with the law firm, Wisner Baum, where he earns a percentage of fees from cases he refers. And he committed to recusing himself from matters that could present a conflict of interest. Now, for me, this is where things start to get because Elizabeth Warren also clashed with him on drug companies, right? Where she technically accused him of saying, hey, are you going to, agree to sue the drug companies? You're receiving money from X, Y, and Z. I'm thinking to myself, if you go to Open Secrets, let me find it. I definitely know my beautiful wife, Jen, sent me this. She's like, you need to check out Open Secrets, where you can actually see for yourself how many politicians had received what from who's the contributors, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, well, most of y'all who are, and this is the key point. We're dealing with individuals who are in Big Pharma's back pockets, who are being incentivized by Big Pharma and Big Food to press Kennedy. If Kennedy gets confirmed, it's going to be horrible for them. The last thing they want is Kennedy to be confirmed because he threatens both Big Pharma and Big Food. It's a big deal. Like I said before, I was more excited for this confirmation than probably anything else. Now, of course, they talk about family opposition. Blumenthal referenced a letter from Kennedy's cousin, Caroline Kennedy, who labeled him a predator, criticized his qualifications. And Kennedy's response was that, of course, he expressed disappointment over the matter because, still his cousin. So I can see the emotional connection there. And she's kind of annoying, if I'm just honest. If I'm being honest. Caroline is annoying. It's like, why? Why? But anyways, he emphasizes dedication to public service. And then I think the last issue was like public health initiatives, where I think Romney had asked him about his plan to address the current public health challenges. And, you know, we had a conversation about climate change that Bernie had mentioned and brought up and everything. So in conclusion, basically the hearing technically underscored the contentious nature of, you know, Kennedy's nomination. And with senators expressing deep concerns about past statements, positions on critical, you know, health issues. And Kennedy attempted to reassure the committee of his commitment to public health, adherence to scientific evidence. And of course, the committee is expected to deliberate further before making a decision on his confirmation. And quite frankly, I think it's going to be a fight for this confirmation. And I think is a big deal. But it's this moment. This moment. This moment right here. With Bennet. That, in my humble opinion, next to him being grilled by Warren, Elizabeth Warren, which was a lot. He was grilled a lot. I feel like some of these men got low testosterone levels. Because it sounded like to me a lot of these men were more up in arms than a lot of the women. Like, I mean, Elizabeth Warren was tame compared to like some of these men. But anyways, it was this moment right here with Bennet that was really blown up. Right, is a noteworthy exchange on this mark. And in this segment, Senator Michael Bennet, Democrat, rigorously questioned Kennedy about his past statements on vaccines and public health. And then Kennedy, of course, he responded by emphasizing his commitment to vaccine safety, clarifying his stance on public health initiatives. But this interaction stands out as a very pivotal moment for me because it highlighted a tension between Kennedy's controversial views and the responsibilities of the HHS leadership. And you also see the tension. You see the tension here in this issue. Because once again, if there's anyone who loses with Kennedy being confirmed, it's Big Pharma, Big Food, and all those in Big Pharma's back pocket. We can talk about Kennedy all day long. But this issue right here, I'm press play.
A really important responsibility, which is to this being asked this morning.
Remember, Bennet gets upset because Kennedy practically, in his opinion, I feel like Bennet felt, and I could be wrong, that Kennedy was talking bad about America and yada yada yada. Like, no, Kennedy stated straight facts in his opening statement. This country is unhealthy in every area. We are doing worse than many other countries, and we shouldn't. And many of the contributing factor as to why we are the way we are is because of Big Pharma and Big Food. But I think this exchange is pivotal, so I'm just going to play it.
Here in the U.S. Senate, and this committee is being asked to fulfill a really important responsibility, which is to decide whether to confirm Mr. Kennedy to one of the most important healthcare jobs in America. And the reason I think it's so important is for many of the reasons you said in your opening statement, which is that we live in the richest country in the world, and we have some of the worst health outcomes of any industrialized country in the world. We live in the richest country in the world, and we have some of the lowest life expectancy rates of anybody in the industrialized world. I was a school superintendent before I was in this job, Mr. Chairman, and I can tell you that Mr. Kennedy's right, that when I look at the kids in the Denver public schools, if we don't change the way we eat in this country, 40% of them are going to suffer adult diabetes as a result of their diet. These are, and we're, as I said, spending more than any other country in the world, and our families, every single person's constituents in this Senate are facing chronic shortages when it comes to health care. My friend from Texas, Senator Cornyn, has been a champion on mental health care. We have an epidemic, as he knows, across this country in mental health care, partly because of what the massive social media platforms that were sitting behind the President of the United States have inflicted on our children for their profit in the last decade or so. So we have no shortage of challenges to confront, and I even agree with some of the diagnosis of he spent 50 years of his life not honoring the tradition that he talked about at the beginning of this conversation, but peddling in half-truths, peddling in false statements, peddling in theories that, create doubt about whether or not things that we know are safe are unsafe. Not that every vaccine in America is unsafe, not that you can't possibly have an adverse reaction, but that parents and children in my old school district and school districts all over this country would be better off not getting vaccinated than getting vaccinated. Unlike his own children who were vaccinated, unlike the people he invited to his house in Los Angeles for their party who were vaccinated. For everybody else, it's about peddling these half-truths. And he says it with such conviction that you want to believe him.
Now, notice he agrees with him at first about his position with big food. But you see where the contention is? Yeah, we don't. We agree. I kind of agree with what you said about food. Yeah, the obesity rates. Yeah, that our kids are kind of fat. Yeah, yeah, we have a problem with the food, but your position on the vaccine. Now, some of you guys have followed me for quite some time, and you know what my position is. I did a whole thread on Instagram a couple years ago during the Biden administration, where I just shared just a list of people who were injured from it. And many of you, thousands of you, not just thousands of you, have shared your position, but also how many of your family members were affected. You were affected. Many people got cancer. Many people got sick. Many people died. And I have it. I have all of your responses saved on my phone. Thousands of responses. This is where the rubber meets the road. It's this contention with Big Pharma. Anyways, I want to talk too much.
And Mr. Kennedy, I just have there are many, many things in the record, but I hope that you could answer these questions yes or no. I've tried to ask these in a manner that's faithful to what you actually said, because I didn't want to have a debate about whether you actually said them. So I'm asking you yes or no, Mr. Kennedy. Did you say that COVID-19 was a genetically engineered bioweapon that targets black and white people, but spared Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese people?
Oh, Lord. Oh, no. Let me tell you something. So I'm going to let you hear Kennedy's response. And there's a real study for this from the NIH. When I heard Bennet ask him this question, I was like, I already know that what they're trying to pin him with. I'm not gonna say the word on here. They're trying to pin the anti-Semitism label on him right here. And this is where I feel that Kennedy is in getting trouble with his confirmation. It's going to have to be an act of God, in my humble opinion, for Kennedy to be confirmed. But here's his answer.
I didn't say it was deliberately targeted. I just quoted an NIH-funded and NIH published study.
Did you say that it targets black and white people but spared Ashkenazi Jews?
I quoted a study, Your Honor. I quoted an NIH study that showed that
I'll take that as a yes.
races
I have to move on, I have to move on. Did you say that Lyme disease is highly likely a materially engineered?
I'm telling you, they're going to pin They're going to pin Kennedy for this. That question alone. That question about the drug companies and, whether he's going to sue them or, his position on health. That question by Bennet. In my humble opinion, I think that's the death blow. I pray I'm wrong. I want to be wrong so bad. I have faith he'll be confirmed. But that question, and Kennedy's answer is, I just quoted from the NIH. The NIH said that. I just quoted from it. That C-19 disproportionately affected specific ethnic backgrounds, and one specific ethnic background just wasn't affected by it. Or should I say two? According to that study, it was the Ashkenazi Jews and the Chinese, which is insane. Carry on.
Engineered bioweapon. I made sure I put in the highly likely. Did you say Lyme disease is a highly likely militarily engineered bioweapon?
I probably did say that.
Did you say that?
And that's what the developer of
I
Lyme
want all
disease
of our
said.
colleagues to hear it, Mr. Kennedy. I want them to hear it. You said yes. Did you say that exposure to pesticides causes children to become transgender?
No, I never said that.
Okay, I have the record that I'll give to the chairman, and he can make his judgment about what you said. Did you write in your book, and it's undeniable, that African AIDS is an entirely different disease from Western AIDS? Yes or no, Mr. Kennedy?
I'm not sure if I made that.
Okay, I'll give it to the chairman, Mr. Kennedy. And my final question, did you say on a podcast, and I quote, I wouldn't leave abortion, to the states. My belief is we should leave it to the woman. We shouldn't have the government involved, even if it's full term. Did you say that, Mr. Kennedy?
Senator, I believe that every abortion is a tragedy.
Did you say it, Mr. Kennedy? This
believe-
matters. It doesn't matter what you come here and say that isn't true, that's not.
I'm telling you, some of the men, Bennet included, they were highly emotional during this entire hearing. Very emotional. It matters. It matters. Big food, pharma, abortion. You'll see that trend throughout the hearing. A couple other topics like, drug companies and pharmaceutical companies. Money, suing the drug companies, etc. But those were the big three. Those are the big three. I'm praying for Kennedy. Because he gets confirmed. It's going to be a fun 4 years. You guys comment below. Tell me what you think. I'll be back with another Kennedy episode, I promise. But it's going to be a doozy. It's going to be a doozy. This conversation is not done. It's not done. It has just begun. Like, comment below. I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.